Link to the Past Randomizer League Invitational Week 3. We have here Julloninja versus Solski, representing the Immortals and the Yutang clan, respectively. My name is Esmar, and commentating with me is McMonkey.
How you doing tonight, Esmar?
I'm doing pretty good. Before we get started, I'd also like to shout out our restreamer and tracker, who are doing the important job of bringing the match to you tonight. On streaming, we've got Duodeca, and on the restream, we've got blank on. Help me out here, McMonkey.
Rossi on the restream, is that right?
I believe so. Anyway, what have we got here tonight?
Well, tonight we've got a matchup on the Skullwoods division, week 3 of the league. We have a casual boot seed. Both of these players. We've got 3rd place in the Skullwoods division, battling it out with 6th place in the division. A lot of rando left to play, so anything can happen. There have been a lot of upsets in the Invitational so far, so definitely an important 3 points up for grabs here as they get off.
Yeah, and again, this is a casual boot. So for the uninitiated, this is a standard start, a little bit different from the arguably more standard open start. The standard start has you going through the opening sequence of the game, how the game usually starts. Often skipped because it's, a lot of people consider it dead time, but interestingly is you do get some guaranteed checks that you do get to do first. So you get the escape sequence, and with casual boots, you can bonk open the back of escape, so those are always available. So you get a nice little treasure trove, and of course, boots are free, so we go fast.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that the casual is apt here. It gives you some time to really let those nerves settle in and check these, escape checks, sewer checks that can be a little bit difficult to decide when to route in later. You don't have to worry about that. You get them all off the plate right at the front of the seed.
A little bit of nomenclature history, I guess. I believe that, the casual refers to the fact that you start with the sword. Because there's open boots where you start with the boots but no sword. Casual standard, I think, is, sword but no boots. The sword is just a nice thing to have. Otherwise, the uncle gives you a weapon guaranteed. But it's nice to be able to fight with the sword rather than the cane of burnout.
Absolutely is, and Julloninja doing some work with that sword, picking up a couple of bombs, finding out the prize packs here. He'll be all set going into Kakariko once we're done with escape.
What's important in casual boots versus regular standard to find those bombs early, but yeah, it is still important going into CAC, so you don't need to find them before the end of escape, but you do like to find them sooner rather than later. You don't never like to have egg on your face and being like, oh, I assumed I had bombs, and finding out that you have 0 bombs.
Yeah, having to go down and buy bombs is going to cost a little bit of time if you don't find them here, and not having the money to buy bombs is going to cost you even more time. You're looking at gambling, possibly going to find some without them. But not a problem for either of these runners here. They've both found that the cards are in the bomb prize pack. They should be well stocked leaving here.
I haven't been paying attention to our pulls, but yeah, there we go. We have the map, and we do have a key in the inventory, so we have seen both of the chests that don't contain items, so there's going to hopefully be something interesting in the back of escape.
Yeah, and both our runners showing off some NMG skill there, killing the ball and chain guard with 8 slashes. It's a whole lot easier to use those pots, but it's just slightly faster to go with the slashes, and neither of these guys are refraining from the harder strats here so far.
Interesting from Solski here, taking that bottom staircase. Is that faster with the boots?
I haven't timed that myself, but eyeballing it based on the way these guys are going, it seems to be close enough that it probably doesn't much matter.
Yeah, it's definitely slower without the boots. The boots makes up a lot of time, but you get those 2 long straightaways, so take note.
I've seen several top runners taking the staircase, and we have another one in chat here confirming that the staircase is faster. So I'm going to go ahead and say that if the top runners are doing that route, then it's probably the more efficient one.
Yeah, it's all those little time saves that make the difference. There's a little bit of routing knowledge that goes into it, but at the level that these guys are at, those little bits of execution actually do matter.
And they add up. You get 30 frames here, a second there, and you add that up over an hour, hour and a half, and it's significant time. And it's the reason these guys are in the Invitational.
Yeah, and it's sort of how you buy yourself leeway in your routing. You can, if you make a poor routing choice, it's all right as long as you've made enough of those tiny time saves to sort of even it out a little bit.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's you buy yourself time with your gameplay here, and that's what makes these guys who they are.
And speaking of leeway, that blue mail will give them plenty of leeway with their 3 hearts. So any concerns about low percent thrown out the window. Blue mail, they're practically invincible now.
Yeah, you almost don't want to see red mail because that makes a potential death warp a lot harder to do. You really have to walk into a death warp scenario with red mail, otherwise you just have too much health. It's not worth the time.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That things that more casual runners might take for granted as a good item to have might not actually be desirable at the top level.
I know I hate pulling if I don't have mirror, I hate pulling red mail in the pod dark maze. Both of the runners in lockstep going into Sanctuary. That's not unexpected. We finally see an exciting item here. Blue mail was nice, but now we have the glove, which is going to inform some of our routing choices here.
Yeah, and for Solski, who only picked up 1 bomb in all of Escape there, there's a couple opportunities to get a 50-50 drop with that glove, so that may help. And back-to-back important items, we got the Moon Pearl and Bonk Rocks. We are 1 item from Dark World access.
That's a spooky place for that to be, because it's really easy. I mean, obviously these runners aren't going to forget it, but it's not hard to in casual boots forget to check bonk rocks quick, because you're just so used to having boots, and then you can forget to do that check for a really long time if you're not paying attention. So neither of these runners falling victim to that particular foible, but
Yeah, I think that if you haven't played a boot start in a while, there's the potential there. But these guys, I'm sure, have been practicing grinding on the casual boots.
yeah, that's not a mistake you allow yourself to make in the league here. Interesting. Solski went for that red rupee, apparently deciding those extra 20 were worth the time of going and grabbing it.
Yeah, without those 20, it might be close on having bottle merchant money coming out of the well. It sort of just guarantees that he's going to have enough for the bottle merchant.
Yeah, it's you can skip it, but you're risking again that not quite having enough. And again, maybe considering, okay, only 2 bombs here. If you're not lucky with drops, you might end up low. But looks like that's not going to be a problem, as we do have some bombs and bombos in the basement of Blind's hideout here.
Yeah, and as usual, if you go out of your way to pick up some money, you're guaranteed to get a 50 or 300 drop. Blind's Hut not letting us down in that respect.
Yeah, not too bad to see some of that, though, because every 50 gets you that much closer to having Zora money.
That's right. Yeah, we got a couple things to save up for between Zora and the Palace of Darkness. Entry fee. My cousin, that monkey, Kiki, he will not take a rain check.
Yeah, and it's also important to note it's not as big of a deal in boots because you can set up the water walk, but with the Moon Pearl showing up, we'd prefer to see as much money as we can. As we find the Cane of Samaria, nice item to find. But you'd like to see as much money as you can. Ooh, well is pretty stacked tonight. Again, there we go, as much money as you can, because you're going to probably be hitting up Zora sooner rather than later, because that opportunity is going to be coming up.
Yeah, having that money and that Moon Pearl sets up for some more efficient routing when they get around to South Hylia.
Yeah, that being said, the Mitts showing up with the Moon Pearl opens up the possibility of going straight to the Dark World here.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see if either of these guys decide to go that route.
With 5 hearts and blue mail, Thieves Town isn't unattractive.
Yeah, the one concern there would be missing the hammer at the moment and potentially orphaning an item in the big chest.
Yeah, that's the kind of route that I would make. Because I like to ride and die on those really aggressive plays. Because I don't play enough rando to rely on my consistency, so I have to pray. But I'll take that hammer gamble.
Yeah, absolutely. Having, and I think it's really risk management, right? It's taking some of those gambles is prudent if you want to get some of the fastest times possible. But as soon as you get too many, you start building your risk profile and really increasing the chance that you're leaving something important behind.
Yeah, it's sort of looks like we might be seeing Solski going for it. Because this is the thing. Yeah, Jello is not going for it. Solski looks like he's planning on going to the Dark World straight here.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else he'd be coming this way for.
So I imagine Jello is like, okay, I'm going to prioritize South Shore. Just stay the course, do the normal route. Don't get blown off course by the item finds. Just because the early game is such high item density with this very standard route. And Solski can, check out the Dark World and still save and quit and do the exact same thing that Jolo's doing right now. The danger here is, getting, led down the sort of the rose-laden path here of just finding stuff and kind of getting off course a little bit. It can pay off big, and it can be a wild goose chase. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's certainly opportunity for it to lead down and can create sort of a rat's nest of routing, but there's also the potential to find something like the flute or the mirror, which would give the opportunity to really make more efficient routing, and could be the difference.
Yeah. So the big danger for what Solski is doing right now is one of those really nice items showing up here earlier for Jello here. It's a little less risky in a casual boot seed, I would say, because that would be one of the things that you would hate to come back to South Shore later and find after doing all of that stuff like Thieves Town and Skull Woods early. But with the boots already in hand, that's less of an issue. So far, we've only seen Quake show up.
Yeah, kind of an underwhelming dam and mini Moldorm cave.
So this play going well for Solski, it looks like. Not skipping out on too much. We'll see what Ice Rod Cave has. Solski also shows off the hover there to get to that big chest.
Yeah, that was definitely impressive there. He's only got 2 bombs. In this case, a lot of times that hover is just a bit of swag, but with only 2 bombs.
Yeah, that's a nice move. That is not an easy trick to just casually do like that, because if you fail it, it's a big waste of time, because it's slow and you have to watch the animation if you fail it, and it's not easy to do. There's that.
Yeah, and with only 5 hearts, there's losing some health here, having to navigate around the Dark World. Granted, they've got blue mail, but accidents happen.
Yeah, blue mail as Jello pulled the red mail out of Ice Rod Cave. So we'll see if Solski gets around to that. I imagine eventually we'll see it, just because the water walk is too nice to not set up there.
Yeah, particularly if we find the flute relatively soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is very interesting, getting some sub 10-minute major divergence in the routing.
Yeah, that's what happens when you see Pearl and Mitts.
It's going to make our tracker's job a little more difficult, but makes it more interesting for us viewers.
In my experience, I've conned plenty of races with Duodeco on tracking, and haven't ever had any complaints. So no pressure.
So we're in good hands. All right, so it looks like Julloninja is making that Zora play, taking that money that he got, heading up to Zora to see what's up there. We're sequence breaking a little bit here, and we don't have the flippers, so Zora himself is the only one that's in logic here. I don't think that matters a whole lot for these guys. They just need to keep it in the back of their mind if they find anything of value.
Yeah, you just need to know where. If we find something important, you need to keep in mind, okay, that was flippers locked. So say we get a flute that gives us our logical mountain access, we know we're not going to find flippers on the mountain. We know they have to be somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right. But so far, these flipper checks coming up empty. Nothing of note. So far, we'll see what Zora himself has. Meanwhile, we've got Solski diving right into Thieves Town. We'll see if he jets out after the first 4 or if he continues on to the back. Having picked up a Master Sword in C-shaped house.
Yeah, that's really not what you want to see for Jullo. I mean, it's you know, it's still under 15 minutes, but you know, you did all of South Shore, and you know, you'd really like to have found more than that, especially knowing that you could have gone straight into Dark World and checked a different set of checks.
Yeah, particularly later, you know, if he's routing in Catfish and he's got the mirror, right? Or you get the flute relatively early, then you start thinking about all this time you spent navigating from these checks when you could have saved them for later. They've got nothing, or possibly even skipped them altogether.
Yeah, I mean, it's time that you know you figure you're gonna spend anyway, and it's the safe play. But it's in a race like this where you know you're good, your opponent is good. You've got to play well and get a little bit lucky, because that's how rando works. It's gonna weigh on your mind every little bit of time that you're gonna lose here.
Yeah, but I think there's something to be said for, you know, doing some amount of reading into the items you get, right? At a certain point, if the seed has given you all the items to go a certain route, as Julloninja sort of proves the point right there, you know, if the seed gives you mitts and you already start with boots, then, you know, there's a pretty good chance that something important is going to be locked behind those mitts, and he finds the hammer, so that's really going to help here once he goes to Village of Outcasts. So that's the difference item that we were talking about.
Have to pay attention to Solski here to see if there's an item in that big chest, which Solski will not be able to pick up, and probably won't be getting to that hammer for a little while. Might be, you know, within the next 5 minutes or so, but depending on what else shows up, could be put off even longer.
Yeah, I have to imagine he's going to finish the South Dark World route at least before doing a save and quit, unless he happens to find the mirror along the way.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those things where, you know, you have your plan, right? You plan out, okay, I'm going to go here, and then here, and then here. But you have to keep revising that plan depending on what you find. For example, the flippers and hookshot showing up in Hype Cave, which is really nice.
Was there some actual hype in Hype Cave today?
I haven't seen it for a while. That's feels pretty rare.
It sure does. That is one of the hypest Hype Caves I've seen in a while.
I almost wonder if some of that has to do with some of the item distribution algorithm changing. Probably, maybe it used to be a little bit more rich in previous iterations, because there is a whole lot of sophistication that goes into the algorithm for, you know, rando placement. It's not as simple as, okay, you know, make sure the item isn't locked behind something, because a lot of the time it can end up, oh, you know, this algorithm is really dungeon heavy, this algorithm is really overworld heavy. So it's been fine-tuned over the years. It's a lot of work has gone into the randomizer.
Yeah, and these top guys, for the most part, have been part of the community for all of that time and have had to sort of relearn some of the tendencies of the randomizer, as Solski makes super quick work, right on script with blind, no problems there.
I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I didn't pay as close enough to attention to Solski as I implored our viewers to do. Is there an item in the big chest? I noticed map on blind, so...
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't watching for the compass. I missed the, I think the second 2 of the front 4. So he certainly had the small key still. So it wasn't a small key locked in the big chest. So unless he found the compass, or unless he didn't find the compass, there is likely an item there.
So it looks like we're going to see hammer pegs here.
Yeah, interestingly,
mirror. That's nice. Oh, never mind. Changing tactics here.
Yeah, I'm surprised he picked up the smith before doing dig game. He's going to have to orphan dig game because you can't do that with a follower. So now he's sort of stuck. He realized he didn't have a hammer to do hammer pegs, and now has to orphan dig game as well. Yeah,
it would have made sense to do hammer pegs if You had the hammer. If it was mirror, that would have been really nice because then you can just turn in the smith right away. But as it is, there's nothing he can really gain by going that way. Can't mirror to the light world to turn in smiths. Can't do hammer pegs. Yeah, not much over there.
Yeah, but he will pick up his
Little lapse
hook
in
shot
judgment.
and flippers and hype cave here, and we'll see if he continues on to pyramid and catfish after that.
Yeah, it's either pyramid and catfish or save and quit, sanctuary, pick up maybe the hammer in King's Tomb before turning in the smith.
Meanwhile, Julloninja going right into pod. No bow is not determining him, and we were not bow locked here, so he's going to get to go into the back and check pretty much all the items in pod.
Yeah, a lot of them will be out of logic, but that's not going to be an obstacle. It's just going to have to be, again, kept track of. And we're going to be seeing something interesting from Solski here.
Yeah, so deciding to continue to do the pyramid catfish play, but without the hammer, has no option but to go this route.
Yeah, and that's the... It seemed like the standard safer route was sort of biting Jullo by not offering anything of use, but led to the hammer a lot quicker. So Solsti's kind of has to do this roundabout path here. Not an often seen route to get to this part of the Dark World. Hammer is far likelier to show up this early than the flippers are, but really making the best use of the items that are showing up to get as many of these Dark World checks done without the save and quit, which is really nice to do when your only access is that Thieves Town portal.
Yeah, absolutely, because it takes a long time to get back around to here, so you might as well be thorough. And Leori of Light is coming in clutch, helping us out here. Went and checked the VOD and found that there is an item in that big chest in Thieves Town that Solski has left behind. So now he's orphaned a couple of items already.
So that's great for us because we have a reason to watch Jullo, and Jullo makes the dive into Thieves Town to see what's in that big chest.
But first, we're going to get a look at the mountain. Going to sequence break up the mountain, save the old man here. With the hook shot, he'll be able to check all of the mountain.
Interesting. Mushroom on catfish. That could be a pretty big development now, especially since Jullo has already done that area. So it's very easy to orphan catfish because it's hard to, conjure up a reason to go up there.
Yeah, I think we just saw Solski catch himself. There was a save and quit to Link's house, switched tack and went with Sanctuary, and is now going to check King's Tomb here and get his hammer. That was a close one.
Yeah, that's a good play here. You could just feel like it's not worth taking the time to go over here, but with what you've got, it's like you have to think of when is the best time to do this. Is there going to be a better time later? The answer for this is no, probably not. Not unless you have Mirror show up and decide to do the north part of Dark World. But with what you've checked and what you have left to check, that's something you're hoping you don't have to rely on. So you just go and check that now since it's been in logic for a long time.
Yeah, and what that does open up with that mushroom that he picked up on Catfish and the hammer from King's Tomb, we can now, if he wants to drain all of his magic, he could do a fake powder to check the magic bat while he's right here.
I fully expect that here.
Yeah, and then sure enough, we see him using the Cane of Samaria to drain that magic down.
You've got Paradox Cave, the real hype cave, in my opinion, showing up on Jullo's side. Not much in the precursor there, but that's just the prelude.
That's the appetizer.
The real trove is upstairs. Main course coming up.
And Eagle Eyes in the chat noticing that Solski got a small magic refill by spamming the Cane of Samaria too hard. That is a very lesser known glitch. And Julloninja, meanwhile, I think only finding a sword there in Paradox Cave, which is nice to have.
and a bottle. And that's the first bottle we've seen. So now Jello can check Sick Kid. So each of these runners has, well, I suppose Solski has 2 with that fake powder, but has a fetch quest that they can uniquely check with an item that, well, Solski is going to run into a bottle sooner or later. But Jello
It
might
appears
be
that he
skipping that
already
bottle.
has.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know where that bottle showed up, but Solski definitely has one because the kid is not that generous otherwise.
So Jullo finishing out the Light World side of Death Mountain. We'll go in and check Super Bunny and Hookshot Cave, and we'll get our first peek at the TR medallion.
Yeah, it's really, really nice to be able to just do all of this the first time up. Going up the mountain early without the lamp is just, it's so juicy in this scenario when you already have the mitts, hammer, and hookshot, because you can just get everything. You can get the you don't have fire yet, so you can't get a logical Heraclear, but that's not going to matter with the hookshot and boots.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only thing you can't do is dip into TR. Of course, Hera is a pendant here, so we might not see very far. Ooh, Ice Rod on Dig Game.
Yeah, so good thing Solski went back quickly to pick that up, because that could be tough to come back for otherwise. Yeah, although the first 2 checks in Hera are pretty quick. I think a lot of runners treat those as basically overworld checks.
I think that was Quake on Turtle Rock, but I really didn't look at it. It's just my heart saying it was Quake.
Well, chat seems to agree with your heart.
So we have logical Flute Mountain access because the lamp is there in Hookshot Cave.
Yeah, and the medallion for TR and Meyer don't matter anymore, because Julloninja has all 3 now, having found Ether.
Ooh, the bow and hammer pegs. So we're finding all sorts of interesting things here. So Jullo did not finish Palace of Darkness, which is okay because, again, it's a pendant. I don't think we found anything of value in there, though, which is unusual for Pendant Pod.
Yeah, but this is fun. We've got 2 totally different routes. These guys are going into dungeons that the other person has gone in and orphaned an item. They'll be able to full clear pod. We'll be able to clear Eastern Palace. The divergence really hasn't changed from the beginning.
Yeah, they haven't met up yet at all. Jolo's making his first trip into the Village of Outcasts a full over 10 minutes later, which is very exciting to see here. And the flute on purple chest. That's an easy one to put off.
Yeah, for sure, and that's huge. That's a big find for Solski there.
The one thing though is Jullo, having found that lamp on the mountain, is going to have a little tiny bit more reason to believe that the flute would be in a check like that, because Jullo now knows that the flute is somewhere that has been available with the stuff that wasn't on Death Mountain. The bow isn't going to lead to the flute. The lamp isn't going to lead to the flute. Anything that was on the mountain does not lead to flute. So that's, a little bit of a hint.
And we see Jullo heading into Thieves Town. I have to imagine we'll see a full clear, so we'll get to see what Solski left behind.
Yeah, no, in my experience, I'm gonna be looking away at that point. That's just what's gonna happen. Yeah, if the mirror is in the basement, this has become a very interesting race. But if the mirror is in the basement, that's honestly probably a huge advantage to Jullo, because that's going to make that purple chest very easy to find early.
Yeah, and believe it or not, 28 minutes in, we are not far from no mode here. Between our 2 runners, we've got a bow, we've got all the medallions, the hammer, mitts, hookshot.
We need to find Fire Rod.
Fire Rod and mirror. I think that's the list.
Yeah, because our pendants are Hera, Pod, and Swamp. So swamp is an interesting one to be a pendant because you don't. That means that the flippers are not hard required. They're logically required for Ice Palace, but they're not hard required. But we have found them already anyway, so.
Yeah, and that means that these guys are definitely hoping for a mirror go mode here.
Mirror is required for swamp.
Yeah, so if they never find the mirror until last, that means that they're not going to have to dip pendant swamp. So that's, I think, ideal versus a go mode fire rod could be just about anywhere.
What else is the mirror required for?
Oh, that's a fair point. I don't think we even need the mirror.
Yeah,
no, we need the mirror or the book to get into desert.
Yes. So if we find the book, then we don't need to find the mirror. They're both pretty likely to show up though, with the flute and mitts already being in hand. So at this point they're sort of both equally likely to be our desert access. We'd prefer the mirror though because it's fast.
Yeah, so without swamp being required, having found those flippers relatively early, we've seen Julloninja do all of the Light World flipper checks and come up empty. That leaves Ice Palace and Swamp Palace. A lot of times those early items, especially if it's not needed progression, are pointing towards something that is required. So, we may see Ice Palace prioritized. If we see the mirror, we may see them just bite the bullet and go right into Swamp, thinking that the flippers are pointing them there.
Yeah, that's the thing about having the mirror show up. It's nice because you get that really quick. You can wrap together Mire and Desert really easily. But if it shows up too early, then you're like, okay, it's something in Swamp Palace, because as long as it doesn't show up, nothing's in Swamp. And just as I say that, I missed what was in the big chest.
It was just 3 bombs, so. Solski fans can breathe a sigh of relief. That orphan will not come back to bite him.
And we'll see how Jello does against Blind here.
And we see Solski doing some dark rooms here in Eastern Palace. He thinks they're out of logic, but we know with the flute that he picked up and the lamp sitting up on the mountain, this is fully in logic, Eastern Palace.
Yeah, that's probably the most trivial of dark rooms. The only thing you really need to know is where the pot with the key is on that far right side. And it's pretty trivial to get there. The skeletons in there are terribly dangerous. And the hallway in between is narrow enough that you can't really get lost.
Yeah, it's the upcoming dark room that's the more concerning one, but I don't expect Solski to have a problem here, just like Jullo did not have a problem with Blind as expected. Stayed on script, got it done quick, and we have 1 crystal apiece.
Yeah, the hardest part of that dark room is making sure you get all those little gibblies cleared out, so that you can get that arrow in for the shot on the Igor. If you don't have a way to get those cleared out, they start to spread out. You don't know where they are. They're going to block your shots. You're going to start bumping into them. The recoil is really hard to track in the dark, so you don't want to get hit in a dark room. That's sort of rule number 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of I think the most interesting skill-based logic break challenges, in my opinion, is learning your dark rooms. Just it feels good. It's execution based and knowledge based, and it's just a really interesting way to sort of you don't need the lamp for anything.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's terrifying when you're first learning them. It's stressful and terrifying.
A lot of people say Dark Mire is the hardest. Personally, my bugbear is Dark Aga. It shows up a lot less frequently, but when it's an option, you're usually low enough percent that it's a really frightening option.
Yeah, and I don't think that I've ever had to do a Dark Aga yet. I've been putting off learning it. I'll just deal with it when we go.
I tried to do it once as part of a big brain play. It did not work out. I wasted 30 minutes on it. And finally gave up and found it in Agina's cave, which we haven't seen yet, by the way. That's been in logic the entire game, ever since we exited Sanctuary. That is one check that has been available the whole time. Neither runner has checked it because it hasn't really made sense to do so.
Yeah, on Jullo's side, it's just a single check that's not super quick to get to, and I think for Solski, with that flute, being close to, kind of potentially one item from being able to go into Mire, it may be not worth until he can do Desert, Mire, and Agina all together.
Yeah. If the other thing is Desert is, even if we find Book or Mirror, Solski cannot do Desert until the lamp is obtained or the Fire Rod.
Yeah, and something you don't often see is a 35-minute mini Moldorm cave. We got Solski cleaning up the early game checks that he didn't do.
I think somebody in chat called this or something very close to it. So Solski now can enter Turtle Rock. I don't think we'll be seeing that though. That's something you really only do when you don't have a lot to check when you're going up the mountain, and you do have the Fire Rod.
Yeah, I don't think we're at that level of desperation yet. We're looking at 2 checks possibly. Well, I guess you get all the way. In theory, you get all the way to Laser Bridge without the Fire Rod, but that's not very likely.
With Bombos and Flippers so easily accessible, we might be looking at Fire Rod in Ice Palace here.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised to not see. I mean, maybe that's where Solski's heading now, running down. It looks like he's going to finish up Flipper checks first. But usually you see these guys just rushing Crystal Dungeons when they're available, and with Ice Palace sitting there, I'm surprised to see him doing these slower overworld checks instead.
Now, I feel like the item progression that we've gotten has sort of incentivized doing the overworld checks, because we've gotten items that open overworld items rather than that open dungeon clears that we need to do. Like we've seen Eastern with the bow, but without the mirror, and with Pendant Pod, it's like rolling that in doesn't make a huge amount of sense. It's just it's been incentivizing overworld checks. Honestly, it's just more efficient to check the overworld.
Yeah, and if it's funny the way I agree. I think it's been pointing more to overworld checks. Not a lot of payoff for some of these overworld checks.
I mean, when you're one item from no mode, that's how it's going to be. Those last couple items we need are going to be in some of those dungeons. Now, I don't even think we saw the Tower of Hera. No, we didn't, because Jullo went straight to the Dark World. Decided to forego that side of the Death Mountain.
Yeah, he did check Spectacle Rock Cave, but other than that, yeah, did not touch Hera.
Yeah, so we could have the book or the mirror lurking in there.
So we see Jullo finishing up a barren Eastern Palace to pick up his second crystal. We're 2-2 now. I'm interested to see where Jullo heads next.
Yeah, at this point, it's a matter of time before Solski goes up the mountain. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, right about now, because it's been sitting there for a while. Very interesting, deciding to save and quit to Sanctuary and then Flute. It's kind of a long hallway. Mushroom is not going to bite Jullo here.
No, and the longer it goes with Solski having this flute and Jullo not finding it, the more time Solski's going to pad on.
Yeah, that flute has been very advantageous, especially with Jullo making that early mountain climb. That's one of the... I mentioned at the time that mountain climb is extremely attractive because you can hit so much of the mountain at the same time, but, you know, with that lamp putting a lot of things in logic, more or less... ooh, Fire Rod in Meyer Shed. That's one.
And there's the book for Go mode.
That interrupted everything I was talking about. That's pretty. Is Solski in Go mode? That's the question.
Well, he certainly doesn't know because he hasn't checked the TR medallion, so he doesn't know that Quake gets him in. But otherwise,
it's a great position to be in. If the only thing between you and Go mode is finding out what's on TR, because you haven't even been to the mountain yet, and that's the mirror showing up in Ice Palace.
Yeah, so
that's a little unfortunate that Solski doesn't have that right now. This would be a really great time to have that mirror.
It would, and yet it may lead Julloninja further from that flute because there's some mirror checks that he can make. You know, eventually he'll hone in on Smith Chain, but you know, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, this item placement has played very well into Solski's hands. Just everything, you know, finding the mirror late with, you know, the stuff we found is ideal because again, it locks all of those mirror checks away. It's really impressive to see something like this with so much available, like so close to Go mode, without having touched Death Mountain. Like he hasn't even needed to go to Death Mountain, and it's just like, okay, well, just let's finish off everything and just find the rest of the stuff we need. Probably is on Death Mountain, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And this is the rare one trip up Death Mountain. It's going to feel really good when he gets up there and sees that he is in fact in Go mode, and even if he wasn't, what he needed, you know, the other medallions up there.
You know. Yeah, at this point, you know, you're thinking, it's like, okay, yeah, I have 2 or 3 medallions. Turtle Rock, if it's not one of those 2, what are the chances that the third one is up on those, like, what, like 12 or so checks that are just free? It's a no-brainer. Just do everything you can down here first. Yeah, the one saving grace for Jullo here is that mirror does make Smiths a much more attractive play. It's very quick to do that whole thing.
Yeah, so one thing we'll have to make sure to ask Solski early on. He grabbed that Smith and ended up having to skip dig game as a result. When he picked up that hammer, that kind of incentivized another quick trip back to the Dark World in the Village of Outcasts area. Maybe wouldn't have picked up Purple Chest quite as quickly if he hadn't an orphan dig game, you know, and had 2 reasons to go back to that area.
Yeah, that dig game also being very important because it's the Ice Rod, which we are going to need. Yeah, I mean, a lot of rando is luck based, but the reason it's fun is because it's you know, you make decisions and you live and die by them, you know. They're happy accidents, and if you're knowledgeable enough to take advantage of them, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, I like to think about it like poker. Like in any given hand, any one person can win a poker hand, but over the long haul, the better players are going to win more often. And I think that's sort of the draw of rando, right? Where, you know, if you put the time in to increase your execution skill level, to, you know, work on your routing, then that's going to show over the long haul. But in any one matchup, you could end up losing no matter how skilled you are.
Yeah, it's a skill-based game of chance, which are the best games of chance, in my opinion.
Despite having Master Sword,
yeah,
this was a pretty quick Vidi fight.
Yeah, and very low on magic too. That's a lot of knowledge to be able to pull off that fight like that. You know, a lot of runners, myself included, it's like, okay, with that gear loadout, you just like, okay, this is gonna be a slow fight. But you know, if you know the game inside and out, and you've practiced, that's you can be like, okay, you know, you can make everything the fastest it can possibly be, and that's Vitrius is one of those places where it's like you can make up a lot of time. If you don't do it the way Solski did it, it's a very slow fight with Master Sword.
Yeah, it's nice to see that skill being shown off. You know, making good use of the cape. We got the arrows. We got the sword spins. Just great execution. But on the other hand, Jullo with that tempered sword, you know, by the time he gets to Vitrius, he's not going to have to worry about that kind of execution. He can just go straight NMG strats. He may even have silver arrows by the time he gets there at this rate.
Yeah, this is one of those rare things where you know, the difference in equipment doesn't make a difference, but it actually kind of makes the race a little more exciting all for it, you know. You know, Solski isn't as well equipped, but it doesn't matter because just good enough, you know. Not a boots-locked Desert Palace this time.
No, we'll see if Solski decides to full clear here, looking for that Ether Medallion. And that's a big no.
Yeah, I personally, I wouldn't either. Especially when you've made the play of, you know, I'm going in here with the book immediately, you know. Because you could be thinking, okay, you know, I'm supposed to find the mirror at some point. But at this point, it's like, okay, you know, you're banking on just, okay, I can get into Turtle Rock. And again, that's that all of those checks on Death Mountain, you know, that it's a fairly safe gamble to guess that Ether is up there, which it is.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you start tallying up the number of checks that are up there, and you feel pretty good about either being able to get into TR or find access up there.
It gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling. You don't get to see this very often. You know, 46 minutes, you haven't had to go to the mountain, you're almost in go mode. You're in go mode and you don't know it yet. That's rare.
So we have graveyard ledge check from Julloninja here. We'll see if he heads back to the Village of Outcasts area, which would lean towards the Smith Chain. Good sign that he's going back into the portal here.
Yeah, but again, that's straight lost time, all because of that mirror find. So not saving him that much time. He'll make it up a little bit with the faster Smith Chain overall. But yeah, all of this divergence has come from that single difference in decision making after Kakariko, with Solski going directly into Village of Outcasts and Julloninja deciding to do the more standard, you know, clear the South Shore first, do all that stuff before venturing into the Dark World.
Yeah, and GFE and chat bringing up a good point here about, you know, the reluctance to go to the mountain. There's a lot of checks just sitting there, and Solski, you know, really getting lucky to hit go mode before hitting the mountain, to find everything he needs to clear all of the crystals outside of the mountain. A lot of times that kind of play style is going to cost you more than it's going to save you time.
Yeah. The one caveat is, you know, logic notwithstanding, right? Because a lot of the time, I would say most of the time, making a lampless mountain climb, lampless, fluteless mountain climb can pay off if you've got, you know, the hook shot or, you know, hammer plus mirror, and you have access to that right side. The dangerous play on Solski's side was not going up there after finding the flute. Continuing to put it off was a little bold, and it's paid off immensely.
Yeah, and we see even more time loss here for Jullo with that mirror in hand. It totally makes 100% makes sense to check K45 on the way down to Purple Chest, but
could be silvers.
Solski not having had the mirror just saved and quit and turned in the Purple Chest that way.
It's not silvers. I was waiting to look like a genius. Every so often, I magically guess.
You can't get the call right if you don't make one.
Yeah, I live by that rule. I get so many calls right because I make them all the time. I'm wrong, I forget about it. Doesn't matter. But I'm right, I'm a god.
You just got to get good at hand waving past the ones that aren't right. Yeah, so by the time Solski goes up the mountain, assuming that he's going to clear ice palace beforehand, he'll have the mirror. I imagine he'll beeline it for the TR portal, see if he can open it, get the good news, and go right in. Not bother with any checks along the way.
Yeah, he's gonna get the mirror first because that ice palace clear is going to come.
Although it's possible that he skips the
Yeah, if
Pen
you go
Gator
mode
room.
ice palace that hard.
That that's some of those checks. The Pen Gator room is pretty quick.
Yeah, he does only have Master Sword, so it's a little slower.
Oh, there's plenty of ways. He's got bombs.
Yeah, I suppose if you got the bomb strats, yeah. I don't know the bomb strats, but the bomb strats is super quick, and you can do that with no matter what you got. Yeah, and I was about to point out that Master Sword Mothula was very good. You wouldn't know that was a Master Sword
with no magic to boot.
Yeah. Again, it's same as the Vitreous fight. It's if you know how to not lose time to your equipment, that's how you get those great times,
Yeah, and so we've got Julloninja here, having found the flute. First stop is Meyer area. He's going to hit go mode and not be too far behind.
Yeah, for all the divergence, this is pretty close race here. With Solski perhaps hitting some speed bumps. And so Pen Gator room was where the mirror was, correct? Okay,
That's correct.
So we'll see if Solski does it here. Nope. Mirror not required here.
So that may lead him to do some checks on Death Mountain. Although the way he's go moding, I still think he beelines right for TR.
Yeah, the one thing it might make a difference in is Ganon's Tower. If this race is lockstep going into GT, Julloninja has a big advantage, being able to mirror back immediately after finding the big key if it's pretty deep.
Yeah, for sure. Although, we've got a Mire clear and a Desert clear and a Skull Woods clear. So, it feels, at first glance, it felt like not too much time difference, but, having enumerated all of the clears that Jullo needs to do here, it's going to be minutes.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see once it all shakes out. Again, going back to the execution, being good at those boss fights with, Master Sword, it doesn't necessarily save you time all the time, but what it does do is it makes runs more consistent. Because imagining, if a boss fight is slow with Master Sword but fast with Tempered Sword, then that means to get a good time when that boss fight is on the table, you need to find the Tempered Sword first, which statistically is only going to happen some of the time. But if you've practiced your boss fights and you can clear it fast with Master Sword just as well, then what that's going to do is it's going to make your times more consistent across the board. You're going to be able to get those times even without good luck, which is what these runners are all about here. As Solski drops into, almost drops into the Cold Stare fight.
Yeah, we're going to have dueling boss fights here with Jullo heading into land mode and Solski heading into Cold Stare.
Yeah, nice to have that Bombos medallion here since you don't have to worry about that magic. I actually don't think it matters since I'm pretty sure they both still have that green potion.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is having skipped Pen Gator room, Solski then went on to check the Freezor room, check the big chest. Granted, Freezor is pretty free along the way, but that big chest is, probably costs as much time as the Pen Gator room.
Oh, maybe Solski doesn't have the. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure what that pause was for. Very nice hammer Cold Stare there. That one is a little bit slow with Master Sword no matter what. There's not really a fast way to do that with Master Sword compared to Tempered Sword.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, not without potions and that fire rod.
But that's still probably twice as fast as I do it with the Master Sword. So
yeah, quite impressive getting a few good hits in there early while the puffs were bunched up and cleaning it up nicely.
The boss fights are always sort of in my opinion, that's the place to watch for the really experienced runners. That's sort of what sets the experienced runners apart, is because that's practice. You know, you grind those boss fights. You know what to do when you've got the equipment, and that's how you can. That's the mark of a very experienced player.
Yeah, for sure.
Good boss fights.
And some of these other rooms, like Jullo doing a picture perfect Mire 2 there, you know, it's not easy to get that in a single cycle, but these guys are doing that every run.
Yeah. So at this point, it's pretty well shaken out. Jullo's got to do Mire, Jullo's got to do Skull Woods, and they both have to do Turtle Rock. It's coming up imminently for Solski here. Solski's making a smart play of, you go straight to check Turtle Rock first. Don't bother with any of those items because you might not need them anyway, since you're only waiting on Ether potentially. So it's not a big deal to go back for it. So you just check Turtle Rock and hope that the seed is perfect.
And this could mean a Master Sword Soloist fight for Solski. If there's no bow and no sword between TR and GT, that's a fairly significant time difference. Tempered Silverless is significantly faster than Master Sword Silverless.
Yeah, and with no half magic, it's a little tighter on the Ganon fight, because the Silverless hits, if you've got the Fire Rod, you can set up for triples. But if you don't have the half magic, you're a little more limited in how many times you can do that. And the Master Sword Silverless fight is a little bit long for that. I'm not super well versed myself in how that all shakes out, but
yeah, and he doesn't even have the lamp as a backup if he starts running low on magic. So certainly we'll have to, if it gets to that point, then we'll see. I imagine we have to see potion fill-ups, because you can't do a Master Sword Silverless Ganon on a single magic bar.
Yeah, the other thing that shows up there is you can't use the cape strats. I'm pretty sure that's not going to matter for these guys, but for me it would matter a whole bunch. Cape strats are very nice to have. We've got one sword that still hasn't shown up. For those who are just coming in, we've had Jullo made a reasonable mountain play. Found a sword and the lamp in Paradox. I think it's technically called Paradox Lower, but the one with all the chests in Paradox. And Solski, having made the first mountain trip at around 50 minutes in, decided not to bother and has found neither of those items.
Yeah, so despite Julloninja being behind here, he's got to still be feeling pretty good. Being in go mode, cleaning up the last dungeon before going up for his final mountain trip under an hour.
Yeah,
that's
a
good time.
Good feeling for Jullo. This is absurd for Solski. Being at this point, Solski's got to be thinking, okay, I'm missing something, and this is the confidence to make that Master Sword Silverless play. It's like, okay, Master Sword Silverless beats, hunting for weapon upgrades and maybe not finding them for a while anyway. You might be searching, okay, this could end up being, sword on ether tablet, silvers on pedestal, for all Solski knows here.
So, yeah, I think that at this level, you've got to really be thinking about treating it as if your opponent routes it as well as you did if you're in this situation. So where can I save some time, right? So skipping those paradox checks, skipping checks along the way that aren't like super free makes sense.
Yeah, and it all comes down to that low percent play. Being good at low percent, it can buy you so much leeway in terms of how you route things. You can afford to take these really hyper aggressive routes because you don't need to find those extra weapons. You don't need to find that extra armor, potentially. I mean, we have both runners at Red Mail, which is very nice for Master Sword Silverless. If you're bad at it. If you're good at it, it doesn't matter, I guess. You're not going to get hit. You get those setups for phases 1 and 2 with Master Sword. It's one of those things, if you grind it out, it really, really makes a difference in how well you can finish off your good seeds and not choke them away.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Solski heading downstairs in Turtle Rock, getting into the final stretch here before GT.
Again, showing off some of those setups here. Standing on those pegs for the invincibility to just walk right through that roller. It's you notice that 2.5 hearts here. Those hazards do 1 no matter what mail you've got. So
Yeah, this is a little scary. He got a little off script here in the dark maze. Pulls out the red potion to refill. Yeah, not gonna mess around with a death there.
yeah, we haven't seen any fairies, and without the bug catching net, we're not gonna see any.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Solski is lost in the maze here, in the dark maze. We haven't seen him at the switch yet. He's down at the bottom door, trying to find his way back up to restart.
Yeah, too low on magic to attempt to void out here. I mean, if you could, but you've got 1 more shot. Yeah, there we go. We've got the reset here. So this is a pretty predictable room if you know your the timing is the tricky part, because if you go a little bit too early, you can end up on the wrong fork. And
Yeah, having some
sometimes it's a
surprising
little hard to
struggles
tell.
here. And meanwhile, Julloninja is just catching up. I mean, he's buying a blue potion on the way up the mountain, but he's heading right for Turtle Rock now.
Jello's not going to be losing this time.
No, and with the sword advantage, which will pay off not only on that Ganon fight, but all throughout the GT climb, that mirror, we could see this really coming down to the wire, or even see a lead change sometime in GT.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you have to have faith in your ability to do this low percent stuff. It looks like Solski's probably going to be caving in, looking up a map here. That's probably what that long pause was.
Yeah, it's the start of this dark maze that's tough because you gotta press down and then right pretty quickly, and then you can just hold down until you get to the middle platform.
Yeah, to me that it seemed pretty much like you're going off of memory. I like to do that whenever I can. It's like, okay, I remember how this room goes. But then if you get off script, you can really start to get stuck in sort of like, I have to rely on muscle memory, and you end up as, okay, how much time am I losing here? You have to know when to sort of throw in the towel and stop trusting your abilities. Going back to low percent, you can do the same thing for bosses. Like, okay, I know I can beat blind with 3 hearts and no mail, but how many times am I willing to try before it's not worth it?
Yeah, and getting dangerously close here, trying to get to that little refill island in the dark after he did manage to hit the switch, but we'll see if he just bails on the idea of getting those hearts. Oof, and going all the way back around to the top left.
Yeah, this is losing a lot of time here. It's not an often seen dark room because a lot of times, even if you go into Turtle Rock without the lamp, you get bailed out and find it in chain chomps or something. Not so this time.
Oh, and he made it to the bottom platform, deciding that that's not good enough. He's looking for that refill spot.
Yeah, you don't even have the magic powder. I'd be looking for it, for the powder to powder that fairy. The thing that's painful about this too is, you could take the safety door on Laser Bridge, but you can't mirror and get the fairies in the cave in the light world.
No, but at least we'll allow him to death warp, get a few hearts here.
Yeah, but yeah, that equipment, missing all of the equipment that would make this a little bit nicer. There's the powder, so that's a very good find. That, other than the key, that's enough. You need the key to keep going, but you have enough to powder that fairy. You get the free refill before the boss. I think this is enough for Solski here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's a clutch. Saves a few seconds there, not having to take the death warp.
Quick swap. Not very quick when you've got that many items.
Yeah, by the time you get the late game in the seed, quick swap can be more hurt than help. So we got another not trivial boss fight here. Not full on hearts, not half magic, and we're going to be doing a hammer Trinex.
Yeah, the red mail helps though. Red mail hammer Trinex with this many hearts. You know, you've got this many, so I would say this is pretty safe.
I think the magic is the concern with the hammer Trinex.
Yeah.
Not having any issues with that firehead. We'll see how the ice head goes.
Yeah, if you misspace the hammer, the end leg on it is so long that if you don't have the half magic, you can start sweating a little bit. But takes care of it pretty well. Now we have the last phase, which is a little tricky when you start playing, but soon enough it's you know how it moves, and that's our last crystal for Solski. Only a little bit ahead of Jello here, but that means that we've got a very important game that we'd like to play, the Ganon's Tower Big Key guessing game. The interesting thing I'd like to point out about this game is a early key placement very much favors Solski here, because Jello will be able to mirror out after finding it in a deep location, and Solski will have to engineer a death warp with red mail, which is never fun.
Yeah, and no potions either, so can engineer a death warp and then start the climb with not full hearts, take a few hearts of damage on the spike room on the way through. You know, that's going to leave him. I mean, granted, he's got the powder now, but you know, we could have some tense moments in this GT.
Dang it! I can't find a number nobody else took. I'm just gonna take 3 again. That's my go-to.
And for anybody in chat who doesn't know what this is, there are 22 locations in Ganon's Tower. The big key can be in any one of those 22. We like to guess to see who can come the closest or be the first one to guess the correct answer. Now that Solski has entered, we will end the game, and good luck. There are 24 imaginary internet points up for grabs.
Seen a small key? Do we see? No, we do not. So oftentimes in that room, if you find a small key, you can continue on right side.
Yeah, perhaps not having the mirror being the deciding factor there. I think that it's faster to continue at least to compass room, but then you're forced to go full right at that point.
Right. I mean, I like to do that anyway, a lot of the time. Just because I'm not willing to admit that it was the wrong decision to not go left. Yeah, without the mirror, Dark Magician is not a very good strategy. Dark Magician being the strat where you go directly to that room, mirror back, and then go full right side. Without the mirror, you can't really do that. Or, I mean, you could, but it is a complete waste of time, so you have to manually walk back. This is bad news for Solski. Solski would have liked to have seen the big key by this point, for not having the mirror to not be a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. You know, the saving grace for Solski is if he can find silvers or a sword to help close that equipment gap, then that's good news for his lead, despite the need for a death warp.
Because Jello is hot on Solski's heels here. If Solski finds it left side and Jello decides to go full Dark Magician, Solski still finds that big key in a pretty good time. If it's in Compass Room, this is not looking pretty great for Solski here. That would even the gap. So this is an exciting Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, anything can happen still at this point.
Rarely do we see that. It's not good news there. You would have liked to see the big key in Rando Room if you're not going right side. I wonder, does Tile Room make more sense if at any point if you don't have mirror?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going by it and you're gonna have to death warp after compass room to check tile, then yeah, I think I might just pay the cost of tile room there.
I'm always looking for reasons to not check tile room last. It's one of my favorite hobbies. So this is already a seed after my own heart. Even if it's here after Armos, I don't care. If Solski would have a reason to check tile room first, I'm all for it.
All right, so we'll see these 3 checks here, and if there's nothing, then we may have a lead change imminent. And it looks like we will, unless we've got a tile room key.
Yeah, unless it's in tile room and Solski makes the heads up play and checks it first. Either way, it almost looks like Jullo's about to find it first.
Choosing not to use a small key here, knowing that that puts him in a tough position with small keys. So taking the longer route upstairs and back down. Jullo making us wait a little bit here for these compass room checks.
Yep, we got 5 left. Ooh, okay, well, Solski's getting the silvers.
Yeah, so good news, bad news.
I love seeing it in tile room.
So this means that Solski is going to maintain the lead and have silvers. So this is very interesting because I think the amount of time that Jullo is going to spend going and clearing the rest of left side is pretty. I mean, it's in the ballpark of the amount of time that the Master Sword versus Tempered is going to save between the climb and the Ganon fight.
Yeah, the nice thing for Solski here now is now it's definitely very good to not have gotten that not have done tile room first with the key in tile room. Sure, you get the key first, but missing out on those silvers would have been painful.
Yeah, so even though we're having to count to 12 here, 12 falls down the pit to death warp. That's really the best thing that could have happened for Solski in this case.
Yeah, Solski would not have wanted to see neither the key nor the silvers there. But since the silvers showed up, it's like, okay, that was worth it. Even if I have to death warp to tile room,
I think he forgot that he didn't grab the big key. Unless it was somewhere we didn't see. Well, he'll find out sure, 2 rooms from now.
Given by chat, if Solski had picked it up, somebody in chat would have picked up on this, and they wouldn't be this confused. Interesting. They're taking out that mimic with a spin. I think, unless that was just a silver arrow, and ooh, something is missing. Solski kicking himself there. Oh, this is
unfortunate.
Some in that. Knowing too that this means I didn't actually do tile room. I actually have to do that now. That's like a minute and a half at least.
Yeah, so mentally chalking it up, getting to compass room, and that sort of completes the mystery of where the big key is, but forgetting that you gotta actually go through with the tile.
Yeah, and that's the problem with that. If Solski had had the mirror, that would never have happened, but because of that death warp, that's just enough time for those wires to get crossed in your brain.
Yeah,
I know exactly how that feels.
We've got Julloninja dropping into Ice Armos with silver arrows, no less. So this is going to be like a 30-second difference here, starting the climb.
Now I forget, in tile room, does the wall master come back? Would it be faster to get wall mastered?
I believe the wall master stops coming once the chest is spawned.
See, I'm not sure because usually I'm out of the room by then. So for anybody just entering, Solski deduced that the big key was in tile room, but forgot to actually go procure it. before going upstairs.
Yeah, and it's going to be relying on some enemy drops to refill magic too, because he is dangerously
Jullo
low.
right behind. In tile room now. A tile room difference. And going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of this seed, you know, the execution difference between these runners, their execution is so good that those mistakes are what are making the difference here. You know, Solski
Yeah, and I would say
had a
these are
lead.
uncharacteristic mistakes here in
Right,
GT especially.
it's one of those things that situation never comes up. You know, how often are you in GT finding the big key in tile room and you don't have mirror? That's like a one in a million chance that exact situation is going to occur, and you have to have the presence of mind to, you know, react to that the right way. And it may seem like a trivial thing to all of us watching, but in the moment, you're at the end of the run. You don't know how well your opponent's doing.
Yeah, and Solski really living and dying by the aggressive routing. Julloninja, very deliberate, thorough, but without being overly so.
I mean, this is a jet seed no matter how you slice it. We're at 114. This is nuts fast seed. I mean, it is casual boots, but boy, you like to see this seed.
Yeah, absolutely. Put this one in the queue to replay later.
I mean, I'd probably easily finish this with a 130 if that tells you anything about me. This looks like an easy 130 for me.
So the magic drops, very generous with the magic drops on the climb here, so that hasn't been a concern for Solski.
Yeah, you have to pay attention to that arrow count too, because Jullo didn't have to spend as many on Armos because of that, having the silvers. But Solski can't waste too many because you want to still have them for Ganon. You don't want to be in that position where you forget that you've only got 3 going into that fight.
Yeah, luckily there's 5 in the pre-Moldorm room, so that in theory is enough for Ganon. But meanwhile, we see Jullo is taking the lead. It looks like he got into land mode 2
such a good race.
Faster, but both of them having a little bit of trouble with the silver arrows. The lag is real.
Yeah, that's a tough fight, because that one too, it's like there's a little bit of practice that goes into it, but the lag makes it so inconsistent that it's one of the hardest quick kills to be consistent with, in my opinion, in the entire game. You've really got to understand how to read the lag sometimes, because it can be a little different every time, depending on whether or not you have a shield, what else is going on. It's really easy to mistime the arrow just a little bit.
Yes, another situation here where Solski's going to lose some time. He doesn't have the lamp and doesn't have a whole lot of magic, so having to be a little creative with the torch lighting here.
Gonna have to pick up that refill here too.
Yeah, meanwhile, Jullo will be able to just go right upstairs, and here's where our lead changes.
Solski having to play it safe here to avoid going up the stairs at the exact moment the torches in the previous room go out, which, due to a quirk in programming, which often happens with the version 1.0 Japanese releases, destroys every other enemy in the tower, including the boss you need to defeat, which is no good. So it has to spend some time making sure that doesn't happen. Now, Solski is bailed out here, has one more chance to get bailed out in the Ganon fight, and that's if this post-Moldorm chest contains a sword. It does not. It is the boots, the 20 rupee that replaces the boots we got for free.
Yeah, and unfortunate taking the fall there, trying to save a couple seconds by doing the hover, saving a little bit more time than if he had a tempered sword, but falling back to killing Moldorm, using the hammer there.
Yeah, unfortunate too, because now you have to menu over to the hook shot here, which you wouldn't have to do if you had it equipped beforehand. But if you don't have it equipped beforehand, then you can't kill Moldorm with the hammer. So Kind of catch-22 there. Very nice kill on Aga 2 by Jullo.
Yeah, making good use of those patterns.
Yeah, so
Just
Jullo
waiting to
has a
drop in
very
now.
comfortable lead here.
Yeah, all things considered, this is a very close race. You know, it's unfortunate to see the lead change in the end, but you know, I think both of
a
these
nice
runners.
way to see it change. You know, it's a painful way to see it change. You know, especially with a lot of this time could have been made up by Solski remembering to actually get the big key. But you have to cherish the novelty of it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's it's a little bit of a shame because this would have been a photo finish, I think, without
for sure.
some of those uncharacteristic mistakes. So we're on to phase 3 now for Jullo as Solski drops into his Ganon fight. Ganon not cooperating, warping around.
Yeah, so Solski has to hope for a fall from Jullo at this point. But not likely, since Jullo is entering phase 4, and with the silver from likely here. It's a little more likely if you're doing silverless, it's just because it opens up a little more opportunity to get a little greedy, and Ganon spawns on top of you and bumps you off, but there we go. Jullo is finishing.
So get your GGs in chat for Jullo. Just needs to cross the bridge and claim victory.
And that's a official time of 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 35 seconds. So netting the Immortals another 3 points. So GG's to Jullo there.
Yeah, tying things up with the Yutang clan. Yeah, unfortunately, we won't be able to get an interview with either of the runners here. We've got another match coming up on Speed Gaming at 8:45, so we are tight on timing here. So we'll get your GGs in and stay tuned for the upcoming match.
Yeah.
Apathy Duck versus Duke Firebird at 8:45. Looks like Solski with that death is just going to take a forfeit. That's going to do it for our race.
Yeah, wishing Solski all the best. That was an excellent play there. You know, the nerves are super high when you're doing when you're routing that aggressively. You know, it's I still like that, forgetting to get the key in tile room, just because it's one of those moments where you have to laugh, because if you don't laugh, you're gonna cry. You know, it's my heart goes out to Solski for that. That's not a mistake you make often, especially not somebody of Solski's caliber. That's
absolutely. But I mean, a great race. Everything leading up to the mountain was fantastic from both runners here. Both times, you know, independent of how it finished out. Getting a 120 here, that was a nice, fun jet seat. A lot of low percent boss fights, and a great job executing by both runners.
Yeah, it was a treat, honestly. The Master Sword boss fights is for any of you new players, this is a good match to study, honestly, just to see the difference that it makes, getting those strategies out there. But any final words before we take a quick break before our next match?
No, I just want to say, you know, stay tuned. We've got Leori and CJ on comms coming up to give you the match between Apathy Duck and Duke Firebird. It should be a good one. Check out the Discord server or the League channel for the latest standings and upcoming matches. I'm sure you all know this. A lot of familiar faces in chat there. And thanks, Esmar. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. Make sure you give these runners a follow. I'm sure they need no introduction at this point. We've got Solski and Julloninja. I've been Esmar. My co-commentator has been McMonkey. We've had Duodeca on tracking. Thanks to everybody for making this restream happen.
Yeah, and I think with that, we'll get out of the way for the other restream crew.